How do you know if what you believe most passionately is true? It's a good question whether you're a Christian watching this, or a Muslim, or a believer in some other faith, or an atheist. How do you know if what you believe is true? One way you can know, or one way you can put what you believe to the test, is by exposing your deeply held beliefs to critique and the best challenge from the other side. And that's increasingly hard to do in our internet-connected age, because far from expose us to a wide range of ideas, what the internet has become for many of us is an echo chamber. There was a piece of research done around the time of the last American election which looked at both Democrats and Republicans and their behaviour online, and it discovered that Republican groups on places like Facebook only ever quoted opinions from writers sympathetic to them, and the same was true of Democrats. And the same happens in religious discussion. I know many Christians who only ever spend time talking to other Christians online. I know many atheists who spend all of their time just talking to fellow atheists and quoting atheist writers. They're living in an echo chamber. They're not putting their beliefs to the test. I was reminded of this recently when I was in Canada doing a university event, doing a dialogue, a discussion with an atheist friend. We do these university events from time to time in front of hundreds of students. And every time we dialogued before, my atheist friend would use this line at some point in the discussion. He'd say, "Andy, next time we do one of these university events, wouldn't it be fun if we switched places? I'll take the Christian side, you take the atheist side, and we can argue for the other camp. Wouldn't that be interesting?" And the first 2 or 3 times that he did this, I never quite knew how to respond. I hadn't fully figured out my response. But the last time he did this, a few months ago, this thought occurred to me. I looked across the stage at him and I said, "That's a great idea, Chris. Yes, we should think about that." And if I was going to do that, I would go over to the section of my library in my study and I'd pull down a dozen or 20 or so atheist books, and I named a few of them, and I'd begin, formulating arguments based on these atheist writers. Now tell me, which Christian writers and thinkers and philosophers would you pull off your shelf? Which would be your go-to books to begin formulating the Christian case? He looked at me and he said, well, I haven't sort of done any of that reading. And it was interesting. Immediately, the audience kind of sort of turned and began sort of laughing, because it exposed that really what he was doing, with all due respect to my friend, was a rhetorical game. And it showed that he hadn't really, despite all these dialogues we'd done, really taken the time to think through the Christian position. What are the Christian writers and thinkers that you've engaged with to really challenge your thinking so that you're not misrepresenting or responding to a caricature of the Christian faith? Unless you've put your beliefs to the test and exposed yourself to what others think, how can you know how seriously you believe what you say you do? And one of the reasons I'm a Christian and believe that Christianity is true is I've seen it put to the test time and time and time again, and stand up in the marketplace of ideas, as it has done from the very beginning. So if you're an atheist watching this and you've never really properly engaged with the best Christian arguments, the best Christian thinking, then I put it to you that one of 3 things is going on. First is that perhaps you don't actually really believe your atheism. Yes, you make occasional atheist noises, but you don't actually really believe it. Second possibility is that you're lazy. You know there's thinking to be done. You know some of those atheist arguments and memes that you reshare on social media, they don't really make sense, but you just haven't bothered to do the thinking. Maybe you're lazy. Or the third possibility, maybe you're afraid of where this road goes if you start looking into the evidence and the arguments and reading actually grown-up thought and the best arguments on the other side, and you've just shut that door, you've locked it, you've bolted it, you've nail-gunned it shut, because goodness knows what might happen to your atheism were you to actually put it to the test. Those really are the only 3 options that I can see. You don't really believe it, you're lazy, or you're afraid. Which is it?